hidden deep in the Bavarian forest, far from bustling towns and prying eyes, there once stood a small, isolated farmhouse. To the outside world, it was unremarkable, even quaint. But inside the walls of Hinterkaifeck, shadows of fear and secrets festered, a darkness that would soon erupt into unimaginable horror. It was March 1922. The Gruber family lived here. Andreas Gruber, the stern and often feared patriarch, his wife, Kazilia, quiet and obedient, their daughter Victoria, a young widow, Victoria's two children, little Kazilia and baby Joseph, and a maid named Maria Baumgartner, who arrived for her very first day of work on the day the nightmare would unfold. The Grubers were not a typical family. Rumors swirled through the village, whispers of abuse, whispers of dark family secrets. But even the most disturbing of whispers could not have prepared anyone for what would happen that spring. Days before the murders, strange events began. Footprints appeared in the snow, leading to the farmhouse, but none led back. Keys vanished mysteriously. Newspapers appeared that nobody in the household had ordered. And most unsettling of all, Andreas heard footsteps in the attic, heavy and deliberate, as if someone had already taken residence above him. He warned neighbors. They shrugged off his fears. Then came the night of March 31st. One by one, the family members were drawn into the barn. There, with chilling precision, each was murdered with a mattock, a heavy farm tool with a sharp edge. Andreas, Kazilia, Victoria, little Kazilia, who suffered for hours before death, baby Joseph, and Maria, whose first day of work ended in horror. 6 lives erased, 1 killer, no witnesses. But the nightmare did not end there. Investigators discovered something that made the hair on their necks stand on end. The killer had remained in the farmhouse after the murders. Meals were eaten, animals fed, beds slept in. The murderer had walked among the corpses, silent and unseen, a ghost in a home of death. Who could commit such a crime? And why? Theories swirled. A former neighbor and rumored lover of Victoria, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, became a prime suspect. Others suspected estranged family members, wandering soldiers, or drifters displaced by the chaos of post-war Germany. And yet, some of the most terrifying evidence suggested the simplest explanation. The killer had been living in the house all along, watching, waiting, calculating. The investigation was flawed from the start. Evidence was contaminated, the murder weapon was missing, and key witnesses were unreliable. The Gruber family secrets, the whispers of the village, and the unexplained footprints all contributed to a puzzle that no one could solve. Even a century later, Hinterkaifeck remains a name that chills the blood. The farmhouse is gone. The forest has reclaimed the land. And yet, the story refuses to die. But there's more, much more, than what meets the eye. In the shadows of Hinterkaifeck lie clues that were overlooked, details that were dismissed, and a chilling possibility. The killer might have been someone who knew the family intimately, someone who could move unnoticed, someone who lived in the house with the victims. Now let's uncover the strange and haunting clues, explore the prime suspects in more depth, and reveal the eerie evidence that has made the Hinterkaifeck murders one of history's most puzzling and terrifying unsolved crimes. Because some secrets refuse to stay buried, and some killers refuse to be caught. The morning after the murders, the village of Kaifeck was stunned. The Gruber family was gone. 6 bodies. A crime scene unlike anything anyone had seen. Investigators arrived to a scene that was both gruesome and bewildering. And as they examined the farmhouse and barn, it became painfully clear. This was no ordinary crime. Footprints were found in the snow, leading to the house, but strangely, none led away. The family's keys were missing. Newspapers, seemingly random and unfamiliar, lay scattered on the floor. And the attic told a story that no one could explain. Whoever had committed these murders had lived in the house, moving silently, feeding animals, using the fireplace, sleeping in the beds, while the bodies of 6 victims lay just rooms away. As investigators began to interview neighbors and locals, a picture of the Gruber's life emerged. Andreas Gruber was widely disliked. He had enemies. He was harsh, domineering, even cruel at times. Victoria, the widow daughter, was rumored to have had past lovers, and there were whispers that little Joseph may have been fathered by a man outside the family. The villagers were tight-lipped, protective, and fearful, unwilling to share what they knew. Several suspects quickly came into focus. First, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the former lover of Victoria. Some believed he had a motive rooted in jealousy. Others claimed he acted suspiciously after the murders, wandering through rooms and examining bodies in ways that disturbed police. Was it arrogance or guilt? Then there were family members and former employees who had grudges. Perhaps someone enraged by Andrea's harsh treatment had sought revenge. Others pointed to the chaos of post-World War I Germany. Displaced soldiers and wandering drifters who might strike out violently, taking revenge on strangers for reasons lost to history. But it was the smallest details, the strange, overlooked clues, that haunted investigators the most. Footprints that appeared without return, a newspaper from a distant town, and signs of life inside the house after the murders, all suggested a level of cunning and planning that went beyond random violence. Whoever did this had studied the family, knew their routines, and had hidden in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The case soon turned into a nightmare for the investigators themselves. Evidence was lost, witness statements conflicted, and the murder weapon was never found. Each lead seemed to dissolve into a web of speculation, rumors, and fear. As the investigation dragged on, suspicion fell on almost everyone connected to the Gruber family. And yet, no one could be proven guilty. In the decades that followed, the Hinterkaifeck murders became the source of endless theories. Some believed it was a jealous lover. Others claimed it was an enemy family member. And a chilling number of experts proposed that the killer had been living in the house for weeks before the murders, silently observing, moving unseen, waiting. The thought alone was enough to send shivers down the spine. Even with modern profiling and forensic analysis, the killer's identity remains unknown. But the story does not end here. Hidden in the fragments of evidence are disturbing clues that may hold the key to the truth, if anyone can interpret them. Strange sounds, mysterious footprints, keys that vanished, and the unsolved question of who could have remained in the house unnoticed all point to something darker than a simple motive of revenge or jealousy. As we look closer at these strange details, one question looms larger than all others. Who had the knowledge, the courage, and the audacity to live among the victims after committing such an atrocity? Let's explore the most chilling theories, the secrets that have never been revealed, and the dark truth that may finally explain the Hinterkaifeck murders, if the shadows of the past allow it. Because some killers leave more than corpses behind. They leave mysteries that haunt the living. And the final chapter of Hinterkaifeck is waiting to be uncovered. For more than a century, the Hinterkaifeck farmhouse has stood in the shadows of history, not as a home, but as a monument to horror and mystery. 6 people were murdered in cold blood. One killer walked among the corpses, and the truth was never discovered. Today, the case remains unsolved, and yet it continues to fascinate, terrify, and haunt those who dare to look closer. As investigators pieced together the evidence, a dark and disturbing picture emerged. The most chilling detail: the murderer did not flee immediately. Meals were prepared. Animals were fed. Fires stoked. The killer lingered, lived, observed. This level of calculated audacity suggested someone intimately familiar with the household, a person who knew its rhythms, its routines, and its vulnerabilities. Over the decades, numerous suspects were proposed. Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the neighbor and former lover of Victoria, remains one of the most cited. Some argue that jealousy drove him to murder the entire family. Others dismiss him, claiming his post-murder behavior was simply morbid curiosity. Other theories point to estranged relatives, bitter farmhands, or drifters displaced by post-war chaos. And yet, the most unsettling theory remains. The killer lived in the house before the murders. A ghostly presence hidden in the attic or upper rooms, watching, learning, planning. Footprints that appeared without return, missing keys, strange newspapers, all point to this terrifying possibility. Whoever did this was not just violent. They were cunning, patient, and horrifyingly meticulous. Modern profiling suggests a calculated mind behind the atrocity, someone capable of extreme violence and remarkable stealth. But with forensic evidence long gone and witnesses either dead or unreliable, the case has no definitive conclusion. Even today, Hinterkaifeck sparks debate among historians, criminologists, and true crime enthusiasts. Some argue the killer's identity is lost to time, a shadow that can never be illuminated. Others believe it might have been a relative, a neighbor, or even a stranger who vanished into the forest without leaving a trace. The eerie possibility remains. The person who committed these murders could have walked free, unnoticed, for the rest of their life. What we do know is this: the Hinterkaifeck murders were not random. They were deliberate. They were personal. And they reveal a darkness that still whispers from the trees, from the soil, from the remnants of that long-abandoned farmhouse. Perhaps the greatest horror of all is not that the Grubers were killed. It is that the killer was so close, so familiar, that they could strike with impunity, and then live among the victims as if nothing had happened. And even now, in the modern era of forensics, cameras, and DNA analysis, Hinterkaifeck reminds us of one terrifying truth. Some crimes are meant to stay unsolved. Some killers are never caught. And some mysteries are designed to haunt generations. The forest has long since reclaimed the land. The farmhouse is gone. The barn is gone. Yet the story lingers, whispering through the trees. Hinterkaifeck is not just a murder. It is a warning that evil can hide in plain sight, that the dead can leave questions, and that the truth is sometimes more frightening than fiction. And as long as the wind blows through the Bavarian forest, Hinterkaifeck will never be silent. For more chilling true crime stories, subscribe to True Crime Vault 360, where the past speaks, the truth breathes, and the shadows never stay silent.